Hazzard is speaking.
Public Health, Deputy Chief Public Health Officer, and also Anwar Hassan, who is a physiotherapist with 20 years experience and 12 years at Nepean Hospital. And he'll be talking to us a little later about a new $34 million program that the government has implemented to train up physiotherapists to make sure they can deal with the particular lung conditions that are created by this horrific virus, this COVID-19 virus. Cases. We are still doing quite well here in New South Wales. We had 3 additional cases to 8 p.m. last night. That takes us to a total number of cases of 3,086 cases. 8,995 people were tested, so almost 9,000 people were tested. And that compared to the previous 24 hours of 8,611. So we're still doing okay, but I must say, as the Health Minister, I would love to see a lot more people coming forward. So that's absolutely essential as we move forward and as we start to try and relax some of the restrictions that we've all lived under the last few months. It's crucial, absolutely crucial, that people come forward for testing if they have the slightest hint of any respiratory issues at all, cough, cold, temperature, whatever it may be. We now have a total of 411,618 people who have been tested in New South Wales, so we're fast closing in on 500,000 people. And I want to thank the community because if the community don't stay on board with us, with public health and with the government in terms of going and having the testing, as we free up the restrictions, as we move towards that, that will cause a huge problem for us if people are not going and having that testing. We need to track and know precisely where this virus is amongst our community in order to keep us all safe. Good news is 2,653 people have recovered from this virus here in New South Wales, and that's a very positive message to people. You can recover, but of course you can also have a very unfortunate outcome as well. Of that 411,000, I just emphasise, of all the people being tested in New South Wales, 408,532, it's a huge number, have actually been tested and proved negative. So don't be fearful of coming forward and being tested. You're keeping yourself, you're keeping your family, you're keeping your community safe, but also the chances are your test is going to be negative. I want to emphasise again the danger of young people who might be asymptomatic or who might have mild symptoms. In the age bracket 20 to 29, of the total of 3,086 cases, there have been 652 just in that 20 to 29 age bracket. So 1 in 5, 21% of all of the people who have tested positive have been in that 20 to 29 age bracket. And indeed, if you look at the next age bracket of 30 to 39, by the time you put both of those together, it's just on almost 40%, it's 38%. Almost 40% of all cases are in that younger age bracket where we don't expect, we hope and don't expect, there will be a profound issues. It does happen, but less frequently than older people. But the impact of those young people particularly is we're freeing up our restrictions, particularly around clubs and hotels and so on. We need a very powerful message and reminder to the fact that these young people who may think they are invincible are actually not invincible, number one, and number two, that they can be asymptomatic, they can have no symptoms, or they can have very mild symptoms, and they can transfer those symptoms to people who are extremely vulnerable. And we know that anybody over the age of 50 who have other health issues, comorbidities, or anybody over the age of 70 are really in the danger zones. They are right smack bang in the danger zones. So young people, whilst they're enjoying these new freedoms as we move forward, also have to realise with these freedoms come big responsibilities. If you're going to keep your family, your friends and your community, your grandparents safe, you need to be really, really careful. Social distancing is key. If you drop off the social distancing, if you fail to stick to that 1.5 metres distance, you're putting everybody at risk. You also need to understand that washing your hands regularly before you go into the place where you're going to have your dinner or your drinks, absolutely crucial. While you're there, keep doing it. While you're there, keep washing your hands or using the hand hygiene products. And when you leave, and on the way out, do it again. Because if you don't, then you may well be the precise cause of why your grandparents or somebody else's grandparents or somebody else that you know who have some comorbidities might be a victim of this terrible COVID-19 virus. As I said before, we're continuing to test. It's a partnership, though, with the community. We need everybody in the community to understand one little symptom, just one little symptom of anything that looks like a cough or a cold or flu. Go and get tested. It's free, it costs you nothing, but it could save your life and it could save somebody else's. The final comment I'll make today is just in terms of the $34 million program. As I said earlier, Anwar Hassan is a physiotherapist with an enormous amount of experience, and he's going to be talking to us today about this $34 million program. So important that we have, anybody who's ever been in hospital would know that chances are physiotherapists come and stood by your bed and given you some advice before you leave. But in this particular situation where this virus is so dangerous and has such a massive impact on people's lungs, on their respiratory system, that we need physiotherapists with enormous expertise in that area. And although we see only a relatively small number at the moment in our ICUs and in our hospitals, I have to say it is still quite possible, very possible, that we could increase, or we could see an increase in those numbers, particularly if people don't take seriously their obligation to socially distance, to physically distance by 1.5 metres and follow hand hygiene. So public health and I as Health Minister, we're all on high alert that as people actually get their freedoms back, if they don't actually respond to their own responsibilities to themselves and to the community, we could see an increase. And that's the last thing I want to see. So I'll ask first of all,
Physiotherapists play a very important role in intensive care unit, and we provide a range of therapies, ranging from looking after patients who are mechanically ventilated, so looking after their chest care. Often these patients who are mechanically ventilated are at risk of developing chest complications such as pneumonias. So we make sure their lungs are clear, their airways are clear. So we use various techniques, manual techniques, positioning, and some advanced techniques to make sure their lungs are clear, they don't develop any complications, and that helps to speed up their recovery. Often patients who are in intensive care unit are at risk of deconditioning, also known as IC-acquired weakness, and that has a massive impact on patients' recovery after ICU. So this is again our role to make sure that these patients don't lose their muscle mass, they don't lose their muscle strength, and so we try to optimize their function and get them up and out of the bed as quick as possible, as soon as possible, and that's where physiotherapists come in very, very useful in recovery of those patients. It is very intense, but it's also very, very satisfying and very rewarding role. And working closely with intensive care doctors and nurses, it's a challenge at the next level. Getting other physios to train and skill up in this area requires an intense teaching and educating and skilling them up in various manual techniques that physiotherapists use in day-to-day activity, and also giving them enough exposure to those kind of patients. And a patient with COVID-19 is a perfect example where they have to bring in all their knowledge and skills and be prepared to work in ICUs. We've got a good pool of physiotherapists ready to help and work for us in the intensive care unit if we see more COVID patients here. One good thing is that these guys are going to take all the skills they have learned here with us back to their respective clinical areas. So yeah, it's a kind of a win-win situation for us. And Jeff is a very good example. When he came to our intensive care unit after his overseas trip, he was a very sick man and he was severely ill, and within 3 to 4 days he needed to be mechanically ventilated. So from that day, physiotherapists were involved in his care. So after 6 weeks, he made a really good recovery. He's a really good example of a patient who, where physiotherapists were involved from day one till he went home. And even as we speak today, he is home. He is doing really well, but he's receiving physiotherapy through HIT Physiotherapy Service, which is Hospital in the Home Physiotherapy Service, and he's receiving physiotherapy twice a week just to get that last 10% of his strength and endurance back.
I had Melissa coming out almost every second day, and just imperceptibly she sort of adds an exercise and says I've got to walk a little bit further each day, and measures it out. So just a little bit more, something a little bit more, not strenuous, not more exercises in terms of numbers, but just another extra sort of little tweak to it. Yeah, they were marvellous, you know. Yeah. And I think they sort of realise from time to time when your spirits lagged a bit, you know, they sort of said a few encouraging things. And I thought about this actually. I thought, oh, it'd be good to talk to them and say, look, you know, it's a marvellous vocation, really. And you don't realise how the little things make the difference. They've got the skills, obviously, but it's the care and the sense of you're a person, and they recognise you're a person, and you're different to the person next door, you know. So I think I just can't speak more highly of the job they do. Look, I'll be happy enough to get out and be able to garden. I've got a whole lot of roses and I show them and that sort of thing, but I can't even get to sort of clip a few off. So just being able to walk around as I used to. I wasn't terribly fit, but I've lost 20 kilos, so that helps a bit. Yeah, just to do those sort of things and be able to drive with some confidence. And I do a few other bird watch and a few things like that, so it'd be good to get out in the bush again. Yeah, so I suppose to get back to where I was would be at least what I hope to do. It appears to me that Australia's done very well, so all the recommendations people just should follow. You know, the keeping the distance where you can, and keeping the hands clean, and the masks, you know, where you've got a cold or a cough or something, and just accept the fact it could happen to you.
Come in.
Hi, Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
Come in.
Thank you. Hey, how are you, Jeff?
Good, thanks.
That's good. It's a bit rainy today.
Yeah.
Ooh. But the drive was okay?
Yeah, it was. I said, well, yeah, I thought I think I was pried before the fall. I was pleased that I'd done it.
Whoa, okay, he's showing off.
I think that's what I said.
Yep, good. Yep, well done.
10.
Yep, that's right. Yep,
Where's the other one?
when's our next one?
This must be working because I find I've got sore triceps at night. Just feel it.
So it's not the push-ups you've been doing?
No, it's not. Up.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
just do that
Yep, we
really
can
well.
do the bend on this arm. That's all we have for the arms,
that's
really.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing the leg one.
Then we'll do the leg ones. Yeah. 3 and relax. 1, 2, 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 3.
And feeling a bit more definite in the steps.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
And not getting lightheaded.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we go this way?
All right. Yep.
And it's reading a bit, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Just be careful, it's a bit slippery. We don't want another tumble.
You've got to have so much sunlight in the day.
Yeah.
So when you get this sort of weather, there's
That's
a chance
right,
of coming in.
Do you reckon you'd be okay with that, Jeff?
Yep.
Going all the way up there?
Some lovely bromeliads there too.
Good.
So in terms of waking him up and getting him
So I'm winding down. He's off the propofol at the moment.
Yeah.
He's just on 1 minute and just because of the
And what about
chest.
his chest? Yeah, first time. Yeah, so we're trying to do positioning a little bit later on, and once he's more awake, then we're trying to work on his chest and all that kind
Even
of stuff.
he can start walking.
Yeah, that's good. That's very, very good. So as long as we're quite